Life is hectic.
Some days are just a blur.
We're Jay and Laura LaFoon, and we help busy couples stay married for life.
Welcome to the Married for Life podcast. So one of the reasons I was excited to move to Michigan from the South was the anticipation of 4 seasons. You know, winter in the South is rainy. It's a lot of rain and a lot of gray and bleh. I'd rather have snow any day, and the snow is so beautiful here when it's white. And fresh.
Right.
It's not so pretty when it
gets when it starts to melt. And,
I didn't anticipate that.
Yeah. You were picturing the snow white fields and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it is beautiful. There's no question. I love waking up after a snowstorm because it's usually sunny and bright and the snow's beautiful. But then when the cars start driving and the plow starts plowing and it starts to melt a little bit,
But I loved it when we used to go skiing out in Colorado. When you'd step out that door, you take the ski lift up, and the first downhill that you take on a slope, and that cold air in your face, it's just exhilarating.
Freezes your nose hairs.
It does, but it's exhilarating. I love being outdoors. I love being outdoors here in Michigan too in the middle of winter. I got some snowshoes not a couple years ago, and it's really just a beautiful time to be out. If it's sunny and there's fresh snow, even if it's a little cold, I just want it to be sunny. I don't like the gray.
Sun
gray
is king.
Bleh.
Sun is king, and if we ever move.
We're moving south.
We're moving somewhere where there's a lot of sunshine. Because there's places in the South where there's not a lot of sunshine.
So if you live in a place where there's a lot of sunshine, would you please let us know at podcast@jayandlaura.com. We'll check out the place where you live.
Yes, a lot of sunshine, but with a cost of living like Alma, Michigan.
Yeah, exactly. But today we have special guests for you on our podcast. They are our friends David and Terri Sumlin with Marriage Life Ministries.
Yes. And the topic today is how husbands should pursue their wives and how wives should believe in their husbands.
Ooh, this is going to be good.
Let's go with David and Terri. Welcome. We are super excited to be here, and especially excited to be with our good friends David and Terri Sumlin. And we are on the cruise ship Bliss, where we are concluding the marriage cruise, and we thought we would do a podcast from the cruise ship because it's been such a great week. God has done some great things in the lives of the couples here, and we have really grown to love David and Terri. We've known them now. This is our 3rd cruise together. Interestingly enough, the first cruise they came on just to invest in their own marriage, and that spoke a lot to us because it's important for those of us who are teaching marriage and married couples to really invest in our own marriage. So David, Terri, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your ministry.
Yeah, well, Terri and I have been married 28 years. Just this past December, just celebrated our 28th anniversary, on to the 29th. We
have 2 children, 2 grown children. They are ages 27 and 26, basically 28. And we are from Texas. Our home state of Texas. We travel around everywhere, but that is where we call home. Grandson on the way. Real excited.
I've just found out about that.
Yes, but
and we're now really jealous.
So our background is I've been a teacher for 23 years, elementary, middle school, high school English teacher. And David comes from the corporate world and from Hewlett-Packard and a consulting firm until God sort of totally transformed our lives and flipped them upside down or right side up, I should say.
Yeah, I was an executive in the corporate world, and God laid it on my heart to leave the corporate world, go into full-time ministry. Went into Dallas Theological Seminary.
Sorry.
Yeah, love that seminary. Got my master's and doctorate there. And we've been leading high-adventure marriage retreats for about 15 years, all over the world. We pretty much do it every week. We founded a ministry about 6 years ago, made it formal, Marriage Life Ministries. And
you'll see a link to that in the show notes.
Yeah.
So don't pat myself. Sorry, I'm patting my knees. I'm in shorts. I'm so excited to be in shorts. So you guys lead high adventure. Tell us just a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Because that's very unique.
Yeah. So the idea is that if I can get couples out of their comfort zone into what we call their grown zone, where they've grown about it a little bit, wrestle with those feelings that they're having, there's a way to move them to what we call the growth zone. And so we use adventure-based programming to do that. So in simplest of terms, we would spend probably, in the morning teaching couples how to regulate, resolve conflict, why they escalate, things like that, put that all into context. And then we simulate conflict in the afternoon. So
That's always fun to get.
we'll take those couples and put them on a tightrope, 50 feet up in the air, strapped into harnesses or zip lines, and they have to traverse obstacle courses in the air, in the canopy of the trees, which no doubt, as soon as they step on the wire, physiologically their body kind of moves into that, what we call that fight, flight, or freeze mode, that DPA, where they have a heightened sense of emotion.
Yes, I would be crying.
Yeah,
Heights.
Well, it's funny because when we were in youth ministry, we would do heights.
Yeah.
But now the older we get, the more it's like, no, I'm smarter than that now.
So that would definitely cause conflict for us.
But it's not just heights and ropes courses. It's, even if it's not it's perceived risk. And so it might be whitewater rafting, it might be kayaking, it might be, we've done paragliding, parasailing, we've done,
I've seen you guys do like high-speed dune buggies.
Yes.
That would be
Yes.
up my
Right.
style.
So it's just getting adventure into your marriage and creating shared memories together as well. We have found the motto, I heard and I forgot, I saw and I remembered, I did and I understood. So we just always want couples, it's not just sitting and listening the whole time, but you're getting up and doing things. Even if we can't, like on a cruise, we can't do a whole lot of high adventure going out, whatever. But
Oh, sure we could.
we could try the one last cruise, had the zip
rope.
line over,
Yeah.
hanging over the ship. But,
Let's not talk about that.
But it's also, we've written several curriculums that go with these adventures, and it's not so much about the curriculum as it is about the encounter. So what we're doing is we're being intentional about every minute we have with these couples, everything from the type of music that's being played, which would be music they probably would have listened to when they were dating each other. So we take the average age of couples and we put a playlist of songs to match that group.
So we'd be 70s rock and roll.
Yeah.
basically.
Playing music this week.
Right. Don't stop believing, baby.
Food has a lot to do with it, and we're just creating memories, positive shared memories that they can take away with them.
So what we're going to talk about today is pursuing her and believing in him, correct?
Correct, yeah.
So
See, this
tell
is
us
hard, this is hard for me to understand because I was always taught that a man chases a woman until she catches him.
Yeah.
But I think it's the idea of pursuing throughout marriage.
So
Right,
pursuing
right.
her and believing in him is what you're going to share with our
Now, why is this
today.
important?
Well, we believe these speak to what we believe to be, some of the greatest needs of a man and a woman. That for a man needs to know that he has what it takes to be successful in everything he does, as a provider, protector of his home, as a caretaker, employer, employee. We've needed to know that ever since we were a little boy. And for a woman, security is so important to a mom, to a wife, to a woman. And one of the ways we, meet that need is, as men, is by providing and protecting and pursuing, just pursuing her heart, which means basically she's, we need to open our ears, open our hearts, our eyes to what she's trying to tell us, what she needs. And I think if we have that attitude that she's not just some priority on our list of things to accomplish in this life as men, rather she's the list. She's the reason we get up and do what we do in the morning to provide and protect for the home.
Now, I saw you pursue, again, we're on our marriage cruise this year. We're recording this on the marriage cruise, and last night I saw you pursuing your wife because you guys were both dressed to the nines, and something Laura and I, we didn't do that yet. But nonetheless, that is a way you pursue her, is to say, I want to look nice for you, I want you to look nice because you're beautiful, and we're going to do this together. And you guys were getting pictures, and then of course we photobombed you.
Which is great. You can find those.
So what are some practical ways that?
Let's ask her.
Okay, well,
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I want
Some
to know
practical ways.
Practical ways that men can pursue their wife. I figure if we talk about pursue first and then believe in him, that would make
Yeah.
easy listening for our listeners.
Gotcha.
Well, that's a great question because if you think about it, when you started dating each other, you pursued her. I mean, Jade, think about when you were dating Laura.
No, she pursued me.
She chased after
She stalked me. Yeah.
Chased you around the room.
It's those little things you did, the time you took to make sure your car was clean, that you had
A clean shirt.
cologne, you brushed your teeth, you looked nice.
Interestingly enough, when I moved to Atlanta, okay, I came from northern Michigan and my car did not have air conditioning. And so I lived literally across town from Laura.
Yeah.
Okay. And so the drive over there, I mean, I would sweat through my shirt, so I just had a second shirt hanging in the back that I would change into once I got to her house.
Oh.
Then we'd get in
That
her
was
car. Then we get in her car with air conditioning.
Well, David, when we were dating, he actually drove a panel van, an old panel van.
was
I
a
never
I
saw
bought
it
it
because he
from a
wouldn't let me
florist
see
shop.
it. So when we went on dates, he would drive.
Did you park it by the river?
She never knew I owned it.
Well, he would drive home 45 minutes to his parents' house, pick up his mom's Buick, come pick me up. So I thought he owned a Buick for the first year we were dating.
You didn't know he was a
I never
creeper.
knew. I know. I was like, okay.
Until she asked me one day, she came over to my fraternity house and said, whose van is that in the parking lot? And I had to tell her. But we go to those lengths to pursue our the one that we fell in love with. Why do we stop doing that when we get married? So there's, one of the things we do now, one of the ways that I pursue Terri is I make sure I date her. We are constantly dating each other. And it's not just going to a movie. We do that sometimes, but not just the passive things. We believe in active dating, things that get your heart rate up, things like going to an amusement park, riding a roller coaster, taking a long walk, or hike through the woods.
We recently did a cooking class, and
Exactly.
seeing a knife in her hand accelerated.
Oh, yes, that got your heart rate up, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when your heart rate's up, when you get into that physiological state and you're experiencing something together that's positive, you're going to remember that for a long time.
I was challenged a number of years ago by one of our managers out of Nashville to simply open the car door for my wife. And so I promised Laura, when we're on the road, I will open the car door for you.
Not when we're home, where everybody can see him opening the door for me. Only when we're on the road.
Well, and one of the things we challenge, and tell me if this falls into the pursuing thing, is every once in a while we challenge the guys to do something different, to change it up around the house. One of the things I started doing a number of years ago was making the bed. We had a rule in our house that the last one out of bed made the bed. Well, Laura loves sleep, and so she made the bed for years. And I thought, you know what? I can start making the bed. That would be just a little gesture that would show her. And so for about 2 weeks, I made the bed, and then I was told I was doing it wrong. Thank you for making the bed, honey, but you're not doing the pillows.
All 12 pillows on the wrong way.
12? Is it more like 17? Oh.
Yeah.
So what ways have you seen that are most effective for pursuing her?
Yeah.
Real quickly, just and from my perspective, the things that have been most effective are him knowing the season I'm in.
Yeah.
Because when I had young children at home, he knew, sort of, to pursue me by acts of service, going back to the love languages. He knew it was the acts of service. That's what he needed to do to pursue me. Now, in this new phase, we've stepped out into, fairly recently a new phase of life. And I've left my teaching career, which is where I had all my security and my identity in that. And so now it's turned into, I need an affirmation from him. And so he knows that. So that's now how he's, pursuing me, is he knows that he just needs to constantly be affirming me. So for him to know me, to know what I need at the different seasons of life.
Sure.
Makes a big
Sure.
difference.
Yeah, and this brings up a really good point. So I'm pursuing Terri in a way that's meaningful to her, not necessarily to me. So
If it's important to her, it
Right,
should be
it's
important to you.
exactly.
And we tell husbands all the time, if you don't know what that is, simply ask her. Just ask her, how would you like me to pursue you in this season for which we're in? And it's getting to know and understanding your wife that, it'll just make sense. And the basic point is, I'm just trying to convey value. She's valuable to me, and so valuable to me that I'm willing to do whatever it takes.
And he's really good
pursue
at this because I could be a workaholic, work 24/7, and that's just my personality. And so he's really, really good at making me stop and say our marriage needs to come first. You know, so stop the work. I'm taking you out tonight.
Nice.
You know, and he's really good about that and doing different things. And you know, on a Saturday, he's like, Terry, we're not going to sit around and just do work all day. You're going to get on my motorcycle and we're going to go, you know, for a ride. And sometimes that scares me, but
Sometimes you go kicking and screaming.
but I
Terry,
end up
we
loving
are
it.
going
I
on a
know,
date.
no, but I love it.
Well, one of the things I've seen in you two, and we've witnessed this in a number of different couples that try and present on stage, is how well you honor each other on stage. And that's not an easy thing, especially for someone who's taught for 23 years and someone who went to Dallas Seminary, where you could both be, well, no, I should be the one delivering most of the content. And I think you guys do a great job of co-delivering that content using your own unique styles. And to me, that's one way a husband can pursue a wife, is to let her blossom on stage.
In her gifted area, because not every couple's on stage.
Right.
Letting and affirming your wife in the way, in the things that she's gifted in. Yes,
Right,
yes,
right.
yes.
Like Laura's sister is a gifted seamstress. Well, you
I didn't get that gene.
She didn't get that gene, but, to walk into Sandy's house and she's got these tapestries and she's got runners on the table and they're beautiful, and just to, it would be nice if her husband said those things in front of us. Sorry to throw you under the bus, guys, but to just acknowledge those things, whether she's a good cook, a good mother, good at the business that she's in, all of those things, I think women need that affirmation, and that is a way to pursue.
Well, I can remember we had friends, they are no longer married, and I think it's because he didn't pursue her, because they were, they went through a crisis, and she said, I don't want this to happen again, so if it happens again, I'm out of here. And instead of she wasn't leaving then, she gave him a time period that let this not happen again, and instead of pursuing her, he just said, okay, and just kind of sat back and didn't do anything. And I remember talking to her, and she was like, if he would have just sent me flowers, if he would have just written me a note and said, I'm sorry, if he would have come home after work and spent time with me. But she said, and she used these words, he didn't pursue me, so when it happened again, I was just done, and so that was the first time that the pursuing in my mind clicked and thought, that is what we need to do in marriage. And the sad reality is, if this man had pursued her and even done the whatever again, she would have forgiven him.
Right.
But because he didn't pursue her, when he did it again, she couldn't forgive him. I think, we all need to forgive, but it was one of those, maybe he doesn't really love me because he did it again and didn't pursue me in the midst of it all.
So one way a man can pursue his wife is to kiss her passionately without expectation. And last year, you guys challenged us on the marriage cruise to set a goal of kissing X number of times each day. Do you guys have that goal?
For us, it's just natural.
We don't put a number to it. We just, when we pass each other in the hallway, we'll just stop. Or if he's watching TV, I'll lean over and give him a kiss or whatever. So we don't.
So like sometimes you initiate the kiss. Really amazing.
Oh, yeah.
But to us, we really, it was an art of kissing. So it's understanding that, it's not just the Hebrew kiss. I call it the Hebrew kiss, not the French kiss, because Solomon obviously understood that under her tongue tastes like milk and honey. But, the art of kissing, Terry loves butterfly kisses. She loves these really small kisses on the back of her neck. And so we have taken your kissing to a whole nother level. It's really an art form, not not just an obligation.
And gentlemen, you need to hear this is a way to really pursue your wife, because I've yet to meet, now, not that I've polled a bunch, but I think all women really love to be kissed by their husbands, especially kissed without any expectation.
Correct.
And that's not always easy for us guys, but the more we can discipline ourselves to do that, the more benefit I think we'll reap. Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and on that same note, in the session we did, it was talking, kissing, and touching. And I think, we are kissing each other all day long, but more often than that, what we're more conscious of is the touching. He is constantly holding my hand, putting his arm around me, putting his hand on my back when we pray together. I mean, just a constant.
I'll be in bed at night.
That I don't like. The hands in my face, I'm like, get away from him. But other than that, he is. Just the constant physical touch is a way that he also lets me know, hey, I love you and I'm here for you. Pursuing
So
you.
husbands, pursue your wife. And when we come back, we're going to talk about wives believing in their husbands.
Hey everyone, here are a few things going on in the world of Jay and Laura. It's cold and snowy here at the Celebrate Ministries offices in mid-Michigan, and that's got us thinking of warmer days and warmer destinations. We've got 2 opportunities for you to get away with Jay and Laura on an event that we call the Marriage Cruise. If you've always wanted to visit Alaska, the summer of 2019 is the time for you. The Marriage Cruise will set sail for Alaska on July 13th through the 20th, sailing out of Seattle aboard the Norwegian Joy. Joining Jay and Laura will be guest speakers Sarah Beckman and Alan Heller. The Alaskan Adventure is going to take you for 7 nights to destinations such as Ketchikan, Juneau, Skagway, and Victoria, British Columbia. Next January, Jay and Laura will be heading to the Western Caribbean aboard the Norwegian Breakaway, which will set sail January 4th through the 11th, 2020, from Port Canaveral, Florida. Not only do you get to enjoy a week-long adventure with your spouse right after the holidays, but you will also get to enjoy building your marriage through sessions with the LaFoons, as well as guest speakers Keith and Chandra Rushing, and Dr. David and Terri Sumlin, the guests on today's podcast. The 2020 Marriage Cruise will visit the Bahamas, Jamaica, Grand Cayman Island, and Cozumel, Mexico on a 7-day sail. Now, for both cruises, group sessions are going to take place while you are at sea. You can reserve your spot today on either one of the marriage cruises by visiting themarriagecruise.com. The Marriage Cruise is just one of several events that we have this year for you and your spouse to celebrate your relationship and learn practical and biblical tools to strengthen your marriage. You can find out more by visiting jayandlaura.com. Jay and Laura are going to be back on the road starting this weekend as the Ultimate Date Night He Said, She Said tour kicks off. The Ultimate Date Night will be in Yuma, Arizona and Sacramento, California this weekend, and there is a full slate of shows on the schedule for February. You can get tickets to an event near you. You can see where Jay and Laura are going to be this winter by visiting jayandlaura.com. Now, let's get back to Jay and Laura's conversation with Dr. David and Terri Sumlin.
So pursuing your wife, men pursue your wife, and now
That sounded pretty simple. Pursuing your wife. Men pursue your
men
wife.
pursue your wife. And now, ladies, we're going to talk about believing in your husband. So, Terri, tell us why women should believe in their husband, and then maybe we can talk about some practical ways that you can believe, because believe seems like pursue is an action word.
Right.
You know, sometimes I don't think of believe as being an action word, but yet.
It's
I mean, you're the
difficult,
English.
right?
You're the English teacher. So.
Don't put me on that. But I mean, it's all based in Ephesians. You know, husbands love your wives, and wives respect your husbands. And that word respect, again, same like with belief, can be so broad. What does that really mean? And when you dig deeper, and many books have been written and so forth about this need, this deepest need of a man to be respected. Another way to put it is he needs to know that he has what it takes to be successful. And if you just imagine the weight that a man has on his shoulders, to be the leader of the house, to be the financial provider of the house, to be the father that's raising the children correctly, to be the husband that's pursuing his wife, to make sure all the finances, to make sure in the bedroom, I mean, in all areas, this expectation of perfection that we put on our husbands to be the perfect leader in those areas, it's daunting, absolutely daunting. And so we as wives are given the privilege to be the helpmate to our husbands, to help lift that up, to help encourage, they need to know that, you know what, even though I don't feel like I'm the perfect dad right now, my wife believes that I am. Even we're financially suffering right now, my wife trusts me that I can pull us out of this. And there's no one else in this world really that can give that encouragement to your man like you can, like the wife can. So I think we just have this great privilege of just being there to encourage him, to lift him up, to take some of that burden off his shoulders. Not so much physically taking it off, but just being there to give that encouragement and that support. And that looks like it's going to look a lot of different ways, depending on the mood, depending on the season. A lot of times men, too, we've noticed, they don't share a lot of their needs. I don't want to say weaknesses, but their fears, their anxieties. they don't,
feelings.
those feelings.
Oh, yeah.
I know, you know? And so many times I even forget that David's anxious about something or he's worried or scared about something. We had a conversation just last week and he shared some stuff. I was like, whoa, I didn't know how to handle it because he doesn't share a lot of that.
Because inside of every grown man is an 8-year-old boy.
Yeah,
Exactly.
He's afraid to go out in the neighborhood because he's afraid he's going to get beat up or whatever.
Right.
Now, I want to tell you, I agree 150% with what you're saying. But there are going to be those out there that are listening that are going to say this. Terry, that sounds so antiquated.
You're right.
And while I would argue till my deathbed that that's not antiquated, I think that's in our core DNA. That's how God made us.
Right.
What do you say to the person who's like, no, that goes for both men and women?
I would agree with that. I would. I'm a very independent woman. I am, and I
don't know one like that.
So I easily could take on a lot of these responsibilities. I could easily take on. I could physically live probably without David. Would I want to? No, never, ever, ever. So I understand that, and it is. So to me, it's the mindset of just truly understanding the way God has made a man. Even though I'm like, well, hey, I can do that, and I struggle, and I have burdens, and I carry responsibility too. I still submit to the man as being the leader of the house.
Right,
So,
and you used a word that I know I've had discussions with younger women,
The S
including
word?
my daughter-in-law and my,
Yes.
no, not submit, the helpmate word.
oh, the helpmate.
My
Okay.
daughter-in-law and my daughter, that word to this younger generation sounds
Like a servant.
inferior. And so, they always like, well, we would prefer to use the word team. We're
Right.
team, we're partners. And I'm always like, yes, you are. But the Bible says you're a helpmate. And so how would you answer a 27-year-old, very independent,
Very capable.
very capable, highly intelligent woman who says, but I'm not, I don't like that word.
Right. Then find out what it is your husband wants to lead your team to do. Maybe. And so you are a team and you are equals. But don't fight against that team. Don't sit there and say, well, you're going to, or be even independent. You are a team. And so find out what's the goal of the team then, and let's both work on that together.
Well, and I have a different perception of helpmate. Terry's a wonderful helpmate to me, and here's how. She's able to see things in me that perhaps others can.
Yep.
And she, as a helpmate, Terry just brings it to my attention. So I welcome and invite her accountability to where she can say, David, I know you don't notice this, I don't know about what you did or what you said, but do you realize, this could have offended someone, so maybe you do it this way. And to me, that's a beautiful helpmate. And
That's twice a day for Laura, for me. You realize you could have offended someone with that?
Yeah.
Twice a day?
Twice a day, yes. So, yes. But the bottom line is, I don't know why God made us this way, but I have an inkling. David, why do you think God made us this way? Or why do you think why do we need to have this be believed in?
I think as a young boy, we needed to hear this from our fathers, that, son, I am so proud of you. I know things are kind of going crazy for you right now, but one day you're going to be the provider and protector of your home. And son, I believe in you. I believe you have what it takes to be successful as a husband, as a father, as an employee. We needed to hear that from our fathers.
I also think intrinsically, as young boys, we did hear it from our moms. We always, oh, you're such a big boy. I'm so proud that you made number 2 in the potty. I mean, you think about those things that a mom encourages a son to do. And along with hearing it from our dad, which is huge, we did hear it from our mom, for most of us. And so hearing it then from that female voice that is now the most important female voice in our life. So how do we do this, Terry?
Good question. It's and I think, and again, back to the generation, it's going to look probably a little bit different for the younger generation than for us. But I'm going back to like my daughter right now, fairly newly married, 25 years old, been married 3 years, and for her to have to learn, okay, here her new husband, and he's sort of scared walking into this role and so forth, and so for her to have to learn, okay, how do I encourage him to know to lead our family? And for her, it's depending on him, his personality, and so his love language and those kinds of things. So anyway, I'm just saying it's really neat watching her come into that role versus like when I was young, I didn't have a clue either. But you just learn as your husband goes through the different seasons what it is. Just ask him, what do you need? What is your greatest fear right now? What is your greatest anxiety right now? Number one thing you can do is be praying for him. Just constantly be praying for him, lifting him up in prayer. Two, just affirmations, just constantly affirming, hey, especially when they're going through a tough time, I believe in you, I believe in you. If you feel like they're getting down and depressed, because men want to fix things,
No.
okay, they're always wanting to fix things, and so just don't put things in their face that they can't fix, if that makes sense. Don't keep reminding them of things that they have no control over.
Well, I believe we want to fix things because it's a sign of accomplishment. Mm-hmm. So it affirms that we do have the ability to be successful, whatever we put our mind to, and so there's some things that Terri, or some things that things at work, things with the children, parents, whatever, friends, things that are brought to a man's attention where he can't fix it, and if he feels like he can't fix it, then he's going to feel helpless, possibly even hopeless.
Right.
And that's taking him down a path of depression very quickly.
And I can tell you that there was a turning point in our marriage, in our ministry, in our life that took place when Laura said to me, I believe it's time for you to start speaking full time.
Oh, yeah.
She used those words. Put me on an airplane. I was blubbering like a junior high girl because that literally was what gave me the courage to say, okay, now it's time to put a plan together, and we wouldn't be where we are today had she not said to me, I believe in you.
Right.
And I think that's the power. Women don't understand the power that they have to empower their husband to be everything that God intended them to be. And again, what is that? That's that helpmate. I'm not your servant. I'm here to encourage you. And
there's a fine line. Unfortunately, a lot of women will try to control, change their husbands because I'm your helpmate. I'm supposed to help you. No. So it's a fine line of encouraging and supporting and seeing the gifts that God has created in them and help that flourish, versus trying to be their Holy Spirit and trying to change them, kind of thing.
I think you need to be this way.
Yes.
Laura has a great line on stage that she says, ask him, if you want to know what your husband's dream is, ask your husband what his dream is, but don't ask him like twice in a row because that's nagging.
Yeah, right. That is true. We can be nags.
Well, we have a really cool thing happening right now, and that is folks are entering the room for our final session with the Marriage Cruise.
Yep.
And so we're going to wrap this up. Tell us one more time the ministry that God's called you to do. It's a high adventure ministry, and your website is
MarriageLifeMinistries.com.
That was great. We really appreciate you listening with us, and hope that you will like us and subscribe to us and rate us on iTunes. Give us a rating. Is that where we get rated? Is on iTunes? We're on a lot of platforms. Rate us wherever you find us. That's not something that Laura and I are savvy about. I know some of these podcasters, they know all the elements. We're just the eye candy. That's all there is to it. We don't know any.
They can't see us.
But trust me, we're eye candy. But we have other people who know. But rate us, share with your friends. If you've got questions or comments on the podcast, you can share those at podcast@jandlaura.com. Have a great day.